Days before the expected release of an audit into Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' spending, which was triggered by controversy over the purchase of a $19,000 lectern, Attorney General Tim Griffin was asked one simple question.
My office was simply asked whether the budget and accounting law that we have on the books in Arkansas applies to the governor as a constitutional office, or does it just apply to agencies?
The Attorney General says in an opinion released this week that constitutional offices aren't the same as agencies, which are bound by the state's General Accounting and Budgetary Procedures Law, also called GABPL.
The law is pretty clear that it does not apply to constitutional offices. It applies to the agencies, for example, of the executive branch. And this is not really, it's not a close call.
The general answer is that the GABPL does not apply to the governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, the attorney general, the auditor, the treasurer, and the land commissioner.
Miguel Rivera is an assistant law professor at John Brown University, teaching courses on constitutional law. He explains that this opinion does not say the governor's office can't be audited, but that any violation of the GABPL that arose in those audits would be moot.
One could not make a finding that the governor's office failed to comply with the GABPL and its financial processes because the GABPL does not apply to the governor's office.
Democratic State Senator Greg Letting saw the opinion, and he says it could be telling that the report was released just ahead of the audit results.
I don't know why the office would have gone to the Attorney General and asked for this opinion about this particular issue if it wasn't concerned about some of the things that will be in the audit report.
That's very troubling because we have went by that law, and that's been the standard for so many years.
Former audit chair and current Republican State Senator Brian King says he's worried about the potential lack of financial guardrails for state officers if this opinion were to become the new rule.
This sets a dangerous precedent for constitutional officers. I mean, if you think about it, what about the Suburbans that are used in personal security and transportation? When they're dispersed, does that mean now a constitutional officer can now not go through the typical process that's been followed for decades and then all of a sudden sell them to anybody for any price?
In the 8-page opinion, Griffin also explains that the General Assembly has passed laws recognizing that constitutional offices aren't subject to these rules. He goes on to argue holding the governor to these accounting and budgetary laws could be unconstitutional.
You wouldn't want her decisions about that to be subject to the review and approval of what was essentially a person, just a cog within the GABPL process, because that would create a separation of powers issue.
Despite Attorney General Griffin's opinion, lawmakers tell us the results of the legislative audit could still be released soon.
I really don't know. That could be up to the audit chairs. I mean, this has taken a long time process to come out.
I have full faith that we are going to see the audit report next week. We know that chairs of legislative joint auditing have the report. It's my understanding that there could very likely be a special meeting of that committee called next week. We're all going to be down there anyway for the fiscal session.